Hey everybody, welcome to Drive Thru Review 674. Today we're going to talk about Detective Club, and this is a brand new game that's just coming out from Blue Orange Games. And if I had to be really glib about it, I would say this is a mashup of Dixit or a Mysterium style game with Spyfall. So if you remember Dixit or Mysterium, those are very surrealistic art cards that people are playing and trying to figure out what in all the world the person that played those cards is possibly thinking. But then you kind of inject a little bit of layers of lying and bluffing and social deduction, or kind of the Spyfall aspect comes in. None of that's really going to make any sense. So let's go ahead and jump down to the table. I'll tell you how the game works, and then I'll come back and tell you what I think. Okay, here is all of the components you get in Detective Club. Each player is going to take a couple of things in their color. You're going to get this little marker here. It's kind of like a little ruler. And then you also will take a matching little spyglass here in your color. So each player is going to have those in front of them. And then you're going to have some victory point markers off to the side, which we'll talk about in a minute. And then based on the number of players, you're going to take a certain number of these notepads. Now whoever is the start player is going to get this pencil, or a different pencil, and you're going to give them, all the other players are going to give them their little notepad. And so what's going to happen is each player is going to have 6 cards in their hand, including the start player. So let's grab some random cards here. And then the start player is going to take a couple of those cards, and they're going to play one of the 2 cards and put that out on the table there. So we're going to put this little weird surrealistic thing. You've got a sort of a weird door hanging off a tree with a barn that's on a beach and some rocks and some stuff like that. Or maybe they play this grumpy looking cat here with some light bulbs that are growing out of the grass, and you've got little butterflies and there's a little medallion there and stuff like that. So you're going to put something out there that is going to go along with the clue that you're going to give all but one of the players. So you're going to write down a word on these pads, except for one of the pads. Then you're going to shuffle up those pads and then hand them to each of the other players. So let's say we're playing a 4-player game. And then all the other players are going to look at this, and they're going to pretend they're reading something, or they're going to read something. And so they're going to go, oh, okay, so they wrote down the word like nature or something like that with that. And then one of the players is going to get a completely empty pad here, and they're going to have to kind of figure out what the word is, or kind of what the general idea is based on the cards that are going to be played. Now everybody else has a hand of cards, and some of them are going to kind of know, what the word is. So we played nature. Okay, so maybe I would play this card, and when the other players play the card, they're going to put them in front of their little cards here. So I'll put that down there like so. And then all the other players are going to play cards, and it's going to come back to the start player, who's called the informer, by the way. And they're going to play another card. Let's find another one here. So they're going to put this one out like so. And then going again around the table, all the other players are going to play 1 card. So everybody's going to have 2 cards in play. But again, one player has no idea what the word is that is tying the theme of all these cards together. So then after everybody's played, the start player, the informer, is going to say, this is the word. They're going to announce the word, and they're going to say why they played the 2 cards, because these are very nature oriented. And then we're going to go around the table to the left of the informer, and everybody's going to explain why they played the cards. So if you're the player that didn't get the word, you're going to have to come up with a pretty good story to explain why you chose this. And so there is some interesting kind of decision there, because how you're going to score it is going to be based on kind of what role you have. So if you are the start player, the informer, and you're the one that wrote the clue, you're kind of playing it in a certain way. And then if you got the clue and you had the word on your pad, you're trying to score it in a different way. And then if you were sort of the conspirator, the person that got the blank one, you're trying to score it in a different way. So how do you actually score it? So once we've all discussed, everybody except for the start player, the person that wrote the clue down, is going to take their token and put it in front of the person that they think is the conspirator, the one that didn't get the word because they're full of it. And their explanation was bogus, and they didn't jive at all. So if you placed your token, let's say blue was the conspirator here, if you were purple and placed it on the conspirator and they were the conspirator, you would then take a 3 victory point token, and then you take and put that face down there. And you get that regardless. If you are the conspirator and there's 0 or only 1 token in front of you, then you're going to take a 5-point token because you kind of fooled everybody. And then the star player, the person that gave the clue, is going to get 4 points. So they actually are sort of on the same side as the conspirator. So this entices the start player to make it not too easy or too hard because they want to have folks confused as to who the conspirator is. Now, however, if there are 2 or more tokens in front of the conspirator, then the conspirator and the informer, the start player, score no points. And that's it. You just play around the table. If you have 4, I think it's 4 or 5 players, everybody goes around twice. They get to be the start player twice. And if you have up to 8 players, then you just go around the table once. And then that's it. Whoever has the most points revealed from their victory point tokens is the winner of the game. Okay, so that is Detective Club. Let's go through my 3 pillars of reviews. The first one is the player count, 4 to 8. I've not played it with 8. I've played it with 4, and I've played it with 5. That's all I played it with, 4 and 5. And I don't know. I hate to say that I haven't played with the larger player count. I kind of imagine that once you get up to 8, it might fall a little bit short for me because there's like too much going on. Although, I don't know, with this kind of game, I don't know that I take it like that seriously enough that I think it would still be fun with 8, but I think I like it. I really like the 4 and 5 player game. Let's be spoiler a little bit there. But once you get to 8 and stuff, I think it's going to be a different kind of game because there's going to be so many cards and so many people kind of BSing around the table that it might just be a little bit chaotic. So if you're really worried about the points in this kind of game, you know, I would say 8's going to, I mean, I don't know why you're worried about points in this kind of game, but you know, that is what it is. Playtime is probably going to take you 45 minutes, half hour, 45 minutes in there. It doesn't really matter the player count because, like I said, the amount of turns scales based on the player, so it won't take too much longer when you're playing. The playtime for 4 and 8 players should be the exact same. I think 5 player might go a little bit longer, but the playtime drops down. The number of turns drops down once the number of players goes up. So about 45 minutes, I'd say you ballpark it right in there. Now, what is the game like? Well, at the beginning of the review, I kind of talked about a couple of things, Dixit, Mysterium, and then Spyfall. But there's also another part of it that's not quite as obvious from the marketing and the box art and everything, and that's kind of like, there's a game called But Wait, There's More. So if you've not heard of that game, don't worry about it. But if you have heard of that game and you like that game, this has a little bit of that sort of like, I'm trying to sell you something aspect. So you're trying to kind of BS your way through your explanation of the cards in here. And so the thing that I like about this is, okay, so I really like Spyfall, but I've played it with enough people that cannot stand playing Spyfall, and I understand why they don't like playing Spyfall, and to me this kind of fixes Spyfall. So this is all couched in if you've played Spyfall or not. So let me explain it as if you've never played Spyfall. So you get your cards out, everybody gets a piece of paper with a word on it, or one player doesn't. And so immediately, if you're the player that gets the paper on it that doesn't have a word, you're immediately nervous because you're like, oh no, I have to lie through my teeth and I have to be very convincing. And there was one round in this game where it came my turn to explain, and I just was like, I can't do it because my cards were nothing. There was no good explanation, like whatsoever, from my cards. And I was like, oh, and it was like I just froze up, and I was like, I can't. I'm the conspirator, and that like has never happened to me except in Spyfall. It can happen. Now here's the thing, because the investigator, the start player, is trying to kind of throw everybody else off. You kind of have a buddy in mind as the conspirator, and so there's been enough rounds of this game that I've played where even the players that aren't the conspirator have a hard time sort of coming up with a good explanation for, you know, their cards, because it's just this mishmash of surreal nonsense art, and you're like, that doesn't make any sense. So players can kind of jump on each other, and you have that sort of werewolf kind of deduction thing where it's like, well, you're being a little bit too loud about, you know, how much mine doesn't match, then you must be the conspirator because you're making such a big stink. So you have that kind of layer of deduction there. But again, kind of like Werewords, which has replaced One Night Ultimate Werewolf for me, this has, again, the other gameplay mechanic that's going on above and beyond the pure deduction side of it. So I know enough people, I've talked to enough people that like hate One Night Ultimate Werewolf, which I really enjoy, because it's just pure lying and bluffing and nonsense and screaming and stamping your feet and trying to throw people off. Whether when you play Werewords or you play this game, you have an extra kind of thing that's going on that's like, you know, sort of supporting the deduction. It's the foundation of it. So you have some tangible things that you can grab hold of and lie about, or, you know, protect or whatever. And so that's what this game has, and that's really cool. Now still though, in this game, if you are the player to the immediate left of the start player and you're the conspirator, because remember they shuffle them up randomly, so you could be right to the left, that is the simultaneously the worst and the best seat in the house, because you're like, I haven't had time to think of a lie, you know, because it just goes around the table. But as the investigator, you kind of want to do that because you kind of want to kibutz a little bit and kind of just throw stuff out there, because again, you want the conspirator to be kind of like on your side. You kind of want to hide them from the other players because you get points in that way. So that's an interesting kind of dynamic too. And that took a couple of plays to figure out that was actually kind of the linchpin of the game, was as the person given the clues, I need to do it in such a way that it's hard to find the conspirator. So that's a very kind of interesting dynamic there that you're not really sure about, you know, the first time that you play. So I would really sell that home. But still, being right to the left of the start player is just, it's just freezing. It's like, I don't know, well, I'm the conspirator, you know, like, so it's just a tough place to be. Whereas if you're a little bit down the table, you can sit there and think and be like, oh God, okay, yeah, this matches, they said nature, so I'm gonna use, oh, look at that, there's a butterfly there. And it's like, this is the only card I had with a butterfly, you know, you can say, and you can even not be the conspirator and be like, this is literally the only card that had even any inkling of art that is like that. And again, that you can kind of get in there and metagame with that too as well, if you've played enough of these deduction games where you can kind of metagame across multiple games so nobody really knows, you know, what you're thinking. So it's got a lot of layers to this game at the end of the day, and I definitely recommend it for folks that like a social deduction game. Maybe you're on the fence. This is one there that I think has enough kind of stuff going on the outside of it. There's a little bit of layers of gameplay in terms of, you know, the start player wanting to help the werewolf or the traitor in this case, that kind of thing. So I definitely recommend folks give Detective Club a chance. I think you definitely want to know some of this going into it, because the first couple of rounds of the first time I played it, I was like, it's kind of strange. But then you kind of figured out some of those other little nuances and things, and that really kind of brought the game to life. So I think it's good to probably have that in mind and explain to the group if you do play this with folks that's going on. So definitely recommend taking a look at Detective Club. Thanks.